What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, and here to break down Saturday's 3-game EPL slate. Stagger starts. It's going to be a lot of those this season, it appears, so just get used to it. Make sure you got your phone notifications on. If you're an FSI member, that you've got your Discord notifications on so you know when the new lineups dropped, and just pay attention. That's where all of the advantage in these slates is going to lie. So with that out of the way, let's just get right into it. First game of the slate is Palace versus Everton. Everton, slight favorites. Honestly, started the season out with a huge bang. Looks like one of the more explosive attacking teams in the league. So we're definitely going to want a part of that for DFS. Second game is Chelsea going to West Brom. Now, Chelsea's been a little bit lackluster to start, but we obviously know the talent that they have, and the talent of the guys is going to be very DFS friendly. So with West Brom looking like a relegation team, we are definitely going to want a piece of Chelsea. And the final game, which TBD if we want to know if we want any pieces or not, is Burnley versus Southampton. Pretty close to a square game there. Southampton coming off of just an absolute howler of a loss to Tottenham. I do expect a response from them. Just a tough opponent in Burnley, especially at home, who has no problem locking down and making it tough on their opponents. All right, let's start with the first game, Palace versus Everton. And I want to start off the Everton side because not only do I have some multiple pieces that I'm interested in here, but I think we kind of know what their starting 11 is going to be. With the front three of James, Richarlison, and DCL. And then really midfield, not that important for DFS, but then we have Lucas Dean in the back line, who is up there in terms of one of the better defenders in DFS to target. So let's just start with the two main cash targets. If this is your first time watching the video, I am going to be talking a lot of optimal cash strategies, but going to drop in some GPP thoughts along the way. So from a cash perspective, I think a lot of people are going to start out with James Rodriguez, or James Rodriguez, however you want to call it, and Lucas Dean. They split sets right now. In addition, both have outstanding open play value. Rodriguez a lot due to key passes and shots, along with some corners, and then Dean crosses a ton in open play on top of having a share of set pieces. So I do think that you're going to want to lock in both, especially given the matchup. Palace, we know, has no problem accepting pressure and then trying to just hit on the counter. That's how Roy Hodgson really sets them up very, very often versus teams that they are inferior to from a talent perspective, which I do think is the setup here versus Everton. Now, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, I think I would not call you crazy if you had either one of them in cash. I think that both are fine, but I do think you need a goal or assist out of them to really pay off their tags. So given what you're going to give up at the forward position, we're going to have Timo Werner later on, Townsend on the other side of this game. Yeah, it's really, to me, it's giving over Timo Werner, who I'm super high on for this slate. So you have to get a goal. They have to, at least somewhat keep pace with Timo Werner. And I don't necessarily know if that's what I want to do in cash. Now, here's what I'll say. GPP-wise, there's huge leverage, which you're going to need in that $16 tournament if you're playing it. Huge leverage on those two pieces, with so many people are going to be flocking to Werner. We're going to lock in James Rodriguez. So if you go ahead and, let's say, do a stack of DCL, Richarlison, Rodriguez, and Dean, I'm not sure if I think you might still actually have room to fit Werner or fit like a Reece James from Chelsea, so you can still get little exposure. But if you do that, you're immediately going to be different from the pack. And if excuse me, Everton, score 2-3 goals and it all comes from that front three, and Dean does what Dean does and gets 12 to 15 DK, you could be looking really pretty and just having to make some good decisions from there on out to have a chance at a GPP. So I really think that Everton is a great GPP stack, especially considering I think Giata may end up being quite popular from the goalie position in Palace. Not only can you potentially stain a popular goalkeeper, but have low-owned attackers as well. I think that kind of does it from the Everton side. Seamus Coleman's in play, but with so much focus on Dean from the attack, I don't think that you need Coleman. So on the Palace side of things, their set pieces are kind of a mess, as you can see on the cheat sheet. But based on the lineups that they have been running out in the first two games, Townsend and McCarthy, James McCarthy would be sweating sets. Here's the thing with McCarthy, I think he's very playable at 3.6K. It's just for him to really do any sort of damage, or to give you like what you want, he's gonna need an assist. He is on a split, and Palace don't exactly generate a ton of corners to begin with, so, and he just doesn't do a lot of open play value. So I think that more often than not, you're potentially getting 4 to 5 DK points, and need an assist to get that upside. So my argument would be probably to wait. I think that you can get his type of production from a lot of guys later, you know, guys like Conte, potentially Matt Phillips, Josh Brownhill. It sucks that Conor Gallagher is on loan from Chelsea, so can't play, but he would be an interesting player. Just a number of these guys in that mid 3K range at midfield, which I think a lot of construction is going to take you to that area. And you don't have to lock it up on McCarthy early. I think you can make it up later. So I probably will not have McCarthy. I think Andros Townsend's really interesting for a second forward. Obviously crosses the ball a lot, draws fouls, takes shots, has a share set pieces. I think the 7K tag is a little tough, but realistically, Everton's defense does not look great. Pickford looks out of sorts. He and Kepa, you know, need to go to counseling together or something right now, because neither one of them looks nearly good enough, you know, for what their costs were and what their talent is. So, you know, could Townsend get part of a goal? You know, Everton wins 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, something like that. Very, very possible. So I think Townsend's in play. Ayew and Zaha to me are GPP plays, but again, if we want to talk about leverage on this 3-game slate, playing one of them over Townsend, who's going to be more popular most likely, and then, you know, the combination that we're going to see a ton of is Timo Werner and James Rodriguez. So if you want to, you know, splash in Ayew or Zaha, especially if there's no Milojevic, Zaha is on PKs. I think that is very in play as well. The rest of Palace, to me, unless we see Luka Milojevic or Eze in, I don't think I could play any of them and use up a roster spot early. I just want to talk about those two real quick. So if Eze is in with no Milojevic and no McCarthy, I think it's likely that he would jump on sets, and if he's playing over Townsend without either of those guys, he could be on a monopoly. I just don't know if he's fit for, if you expect him to play 90. I think if you see him in, you just have to kind of understand that at 65 or 70, he's probably coming off. But we know from his QPR days, for us diehards that were playing championship slates, that he's a very, very talented player that's very DFS friendly. So I have no problem with that. And then Milojevic, if in, I think we have to have a long thought that he might be a guy that you do lock in. Unlike McCarthy, he does have plenty of extra value, whether it's tackles, whether it's shots. He would definitely be on corners if in over McCarthy, splitting with Townsend. And then he also has PK duties, so you have a lot of goal equity in there. Potentially because of the PKs, his price is very, very friendly. So I think that if in, he's a tough guy to not play. So let's just put it that way. I think that kind of wraps up for this game. I did mention Giata being pretty popular. I think it's just because Palace at home has always been a very good team and can be very tough to score on. And then just his price just fits a lot of builds. So I think Giata will be popular in like a cash/optimal build. All right, let's go to the second game, which is West Brom versus Chelsea. And I actually want to start off with West Brom, just because I don't think there's anybody that you're playing in an optimal build. Pereira would be great if it was a better matchup, but I don't think for Chelsea you want to lock him in. Matt Phillips, if in at 3,700, I think is really interesting. He would jump on at least probably a share of sets and crosses in open play. But you won't know until second game. He hasn't started the first two. Started the cup game midweek, so I don't know if we'd see him here. But if you know, for GPP, if you wanted to go Diangana, you wanted to go Callum Robinson, somebody like that, and just say, look, Kepa sucks. If we see Kepa in goal, I think that we might see one more of him. Maybe not. I mean, they just did sign Mendy. I don't think Mendy will play, but maybe they'll just put Caballero in. Pretty much already have said to Kepa that his time there is numbered before they send him out on loan. So maybe you see Caballero, which is a little more competent than Kepa. But if you do see Kepa, or even if you see Caballero, Chelsea's defense does not exactly look like rock solid. So if you want to try to go YOLO, low own one of those goals, I think it's fine. Just a fun note, Ivanovic looks like he probably will play over Kieran Gibbs. Now, he won't play potentially he could play at left back, or it would be Connor Townsend. But if you want to go some long-term revenge, former Chelsea legend Branislav Ivanovic, and it's just fun to see. Yeah, that's about West Brom. I do want to say this. If you wanted to play the goalie, I think it's very in play. Like, Chelsea could end up having 9-10 shots on goal. And if he gets, let's say that Chelsea scores 3, but he saves 7, guys, that's still, what, 14 DK? Yeah, no. Sorry, my math is going to be a little wrong here. It would still be if he has 7 saves and 3 goals, so he'd still score 8 DK, which at his price, like, you can definitely make it work, especially if Giata gets stained and doesn't get like a clean sheet win and Giata stays at 6. You could end up having that savings, and locking in John Stone. You just never know. You never know with dog keepers. If they can get really a lot of shots on them, especially some cupcake shots, I think it saves on, they can rack up points in a hurry. I don't necessarily know if any of these favored keepers you're going to be going into the slate feeling good about. So kind of whatever fits. All right, on the Chelsea side of things, Timo Werner for me is kind of a lock and load. So, no, he does not have set pieces. Yes, he's most likely going to play centrally, but I think he has easily like a 7 to 8 DK floor just from shots, fouls drawn, shots assisted, and that's not including his goal equity. So I really like Timo Werner. I think at 9.2, we're getting honestly a little bit of a discount. I expected to open up a site and him be like 10.5K, so I was surprised at 9.2. He's really easy to build with, so he's the Chelsea piece that I definitely want to build around. After that, I think Reece James is the next guy I want in. He took all the set pieces in the first game versus Brighton. Versus Liverpool, they didn't have any sets, but I would think that he would take. Mount could obviously as well, but here's the thing with James. He's still going to have great open play value from his right back position, especially in a game that Chelsea is going to have a ton of possession in versus West Brom. So I think even with or without set pieces, he gets you a floor around 10, and that's before any clean sheet equity. So I think Reece James is really solid. After that, it's just tough. It would really be lineup dependent. You probably see Mount and Kai Havertz, who's coming off of a hat trick midweek, but that was also playing his kind of preferred number 10 position where he can roam. If he's back on that right wing, he just kind of looked lost the first few games. So, and I guess he was a little centrally versus Liverpool. But anyhow, I don't necessarily know that he's a must. But like for GPP, I'd love it. Like if you want a GPP stack Chelsea, do like Werner. You're gonna fade the Everton pieces. You're fading James. You probably fade Dean, but you want to play like the Chelsea front 3, plus the fullbacks. Chelsea scores 3 or 4 goals, you might be off and running, and then you can even use N'Golo Kante for a really, really cheap piece that all he has to do is have the pass that leads to a goal, or we've seen Kante show up with goals before for Chelsea, so I don't hate that play in the middle at all. Finally, I just want to mention this from Chelsea. I thought I did land on a few builds where one of those Chelsea center backs does fit and can give you like all the studs you want. So Christensen or Tomori. Look, like I'm not here saying that either one of them is going to show up with like 7 or 8 DK, but if you get every other piece you want, and they can show up with like 3 to 4 DK and potentially be live for a clean sheet, I don't hate it. So just thought I would bring that up. Yeah, I think that kind of does that game. Final game of the slate is Southampton versus Burnley, and look, this one's not going to take that long. I think everybody in this slate or on this game is more GPP except for a few guys. So James Ward-Prowse, I think every slate is one of the elite cash plays. He's on a monopoly sets for Southampton. He has lost PKs, it appears, to Danny Ings, but monopoly sets. He has a lot of open play value, not only with some crosses, but he does play centrally, but he gets very involved in tackles, very involved in shots. He plays kind of more of a number 10 role, even though it's a 4-4-2. In attack, he's very much involved in the attack. And at 8,500 versus a Burnley team that accepts a ton of crosses and will accept pressure, I think he's a really, really strong cash play. The other guys I do think are very cash viable are Dwight McNeil, Ashley Westwood, and actually I don't want to say Ashley Westwood. I think his price is a little tough. To me, he's another McCarthy type, except for he's a little better, but his price is way up. And Josh Brownhill. So here's just the one thing I want to just bring up on Josh Brownhill. So he actually did take some sets. He split with Dwight McNeil midweek with Westwood not in. I'd assume Westwood's back. So I'm not here saying that Josh Brownhill is like gonna jump on sets. Oh my God, he didn't get them. But there's the chance you're not going to know until the final game, but he's only like 3.2 or 3.3K. He's going to potentially still give you 3 to 5 DK in just by his open play value. And then if for some reason Westwood was not in, he's on half the sets, then shoot, we're potentially looking at 8-9 DK. And unlike McCarthy, he does do a lot, and he does have more open play value. You know, used to play kind of more of an attacking role in the championship. So yeah, I'm very okay, you know, kind of punting off with Brownhill if I need to. Maybe he's in my utility spot for the end or a midfield spot, and then I can kind of pivot from there. So I think he's very in play. And obviously, Doug McNeil, that's a potential second forward if you don't like James or you don't want to play Timo Werner. We know McNeil has share set pieces and likes to cross the ball plenty in open play. From there, to me, it's just GPP. So Danny Ings, GPP, Jay Rodriguez, revenge narrative versus Southampton, but GPP, Chris Wood, GPP. Just to kind of go along the tournament winning routes, the way that Southampton played versus Spurs, if they don't fix that, they're going to let in goals. So if you wanted to play J-Rod or Chris Wood for like the late game hammer and potentially to try to nab a goal, I'm very supportive of that. And neither one of them will be owned because people are going to burn those forward spots before the final game. Last little piece, then I'll let us go. Just those Burnley fullbacks did step up. I think Charlie Taylor is a really nice play. I think he's on like 4,200. It really will depend on your builds. And kind of honestly, if you fade James Ward-Prowse, you probably can end up on Charlie Taylor. But he does cross the ball a lot. They're much more willing to attack down the left with Taylor than they are on the right, whether it's Lowton or Bardsley. So, you know, I would potentially consider Taylor a cash play depending on how you build. If he shows up with, you know, 7 or 8 DK on 6 crosses, I wouldn't be shocked at all. All right, guys, that will do it. Just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button on the bottom right if you guys enjoy these videos, and leave comments. I love to see those, whether it's questions on the slate or something maybe you want to see, or just even encouragement. Definitely rewards all of us at FSI for the hard work that we're putting out for you guys. Wish you all luck on Saturday, and if it's not me taking down one of these GPPs, I hope it's somebody in our Discord, and if not, somebody that watches these videos. So good luck to you. See you.